Dear all, this is Dr. Shaji George from Nirmala College of Pharmacy, Movattupuzha, Kerala. I welcome you all to my video on electrophysiology of heart. The learning outcomes are: after this video, the learners will be able to distinguish the conduction system of heart, state the rate of automaticity, state the impulse reaching each destination with its velocity of travel, diseases associated with improper conduction of impulse, action potential of myocardium. Now let's discuss about the spread of cardiac excitation. First, impulse forms at the SA node, and it's as the origin of impulse. It's called as the primary pacemaker. It's located at right atrium near to superior vena cava, and the SA node to AV node is connected by intranodal fibers. 3 fibers are present there, divided into anterior, intermediate and posterior. The anterior is called as Beckmann's bundle, the intermediate is called as Wenckebach, and the posterior is called as Thorel fibers. This carries the impulse from the SA node to the AV node. The AV node passes on the impulse to the bundle of His. There is a slight slowdown at the AV node, and from the bundle of His, which is also called as common bundle, it divides into two parts and called as bundle branches, and from there the impulses reaches the Purkinje fibers. The Purkinje fibers is the last destination from where the impulse causes the contraction or the relaxation of the heart muscles. So the rate of automaticity. The number of impulses generated by the fibers is called as automaticity, and it is denoted by beats per minute. And it is important to learn rate of automaticity to state from where the particular impulse is being generated. When SA node does not produce an impulse, the impulse can be produced by the AV node, or if AV node also is not firing, it can be produced by the Purkinje fibers. So the SA node produces or fires at a rate of 60 to 100 beats per minute, and AV node can fire, if SA node is not functioning properly, can fire at 40 to 60 beats per minute, and if AV node is not firing, the Purkinje fibers can fire at a speed of 20 to 30 beats per minute. This is to maintain the minimum requirement of the blood required in the circulation. Next is the impulse reaching the each destination. It is the time taken by impulse to reach at various destinations. It is expressed in seconds. So here you can see that the SA node where the particular impulse is generated, it immediately passes there around, and it does not take any time, so it's denoted as 0 second. From SA node to AV node, the impulse takes 0.03 seconds, and from SA node to bundle of His, it takes 0.12 seconds. To ventricular septum, it takes 0.16 seconds. To endocardium, it can take anything in between 0.17 to 0.19 seconds, and to epicardium, it can take 0.21 to 22 seconds. Next is the speed of impulse transmission, or the conduction speed. It's expressed in meters per second. The fastest is the Purkinje fiber, which covers the speed at 4 meters per second. The slowest is AV node, where the speed is 0.03 meter per second. The speed dependent is the gap junction, the number of gaps or the gap junction increases, the speed also increases. The fiber diameter also determines the speed. The more the fiber diameter, the more the speed of the impulse traveling takes place. The pulse formation or conduction disturbance can cause diseases, and when there is an abnormal heart pulse formation, it is related to sinus arrhythmia, atrial arrhythmia, atrioventricular junctional arrhythmia, ventricular arrhythmia, sinus arterial block, intra-arterial block, atrioventricular block, intraventricular block in case of abnormal heart pulse conduction. There can be an combination of both the above also, where abnormal heart pulse formation and conduction takes place simultaneously. Next is the action potential of heart. So before going into the action potential of heart, one should know what is depolarization and what is repolarization. Depolarization is the movement of ions, that is sodium, potassium and calcium, across the cell membrane, causing inside of the cell to become more positive and results in contraction, that is an mechanical event. Repolarization is movement of ion across the cell membrane, and restoration of the negative charge inside the cell takes place and bringing the cell back to the resting membrane potential. So what is happening there at the myocardium or the cell is that the extracellular fluid and intracellular fluids charge differentiates. The extracellular fluid has a charge of 190 plus minus 10 millivolt. Intracellular fluid has a charge of 110 plus minus 10 millivolt. So the resting membrane potential, it is the difference in charge between inside and outside of the cell. It is mainly dependent on the potassium. So what is resting membrane potential? It is the difference between intracellular fluid to the extracellular fluid, that is already been stated 110 plus or minus 10 plus 190 plus minus 10. It is somewhere near to minus 90 millivolt, and this particular charge is generated at the cardiac cell and it can be recorded by galvanometer. The resting membrane potential is different for different types of cells. So here you can see what is the difference. The neuron's resting membrane potential is minus 70 millivolt, and the skeletal muscles resting membrane potential is minus 90 millivolt. Myocardium, it is minus 90 millivolt. Smooth muscle is minus 40 to minus 60 millivolt. SA node, it is minus 60 millivolt. Thyroid, it is minus 50 millivolt, and RBC, it is minus 10 millivolt. So let us go into the myocardium or cardiac action potential. This action potential is divided into 5 phases, the phases 0 to 4. It takes place at the cellular level, and already been stated that the charges depends on the extracellular fluid's charge and intracellular fluid charge. This particular diagram shows that the extracellular fluid is outside the cell, and this is taken as the inside the cell, where I have denoted as intracellular fluid. So the resting membrane potential at minus 90 and can shoot up to 20, that is plus positive 20 charge. Resting membrane potential gives a straight line and at all time shows a slow depolarization taking place. The slow depolarization, when it reaches to minus 70 charge, it initiates the phase 0 phase, and this phase 0 is the opening of the sodium channel, whereby the sodium ions moves into the cell, which leads to the rapid depolarization stage. That is the membrane potential from negative to positive, it gets changed. As this process is rapid, it's called as rapid depolarization, and finally leaves the charge at plus 20 or 20. From there, the phase 1 will be initiated. It is initiated by opening of potassium channel and the closure of the sodium channel. It leads to early rapid repolarization. The opening of potassium channel leads to potassium ion leaving the cell, and it forms a notch at the particular graph. Phase 0 to 1 corresponds to the R and S waves in the ECG. After this, the phase 2 will start, which is called as the plateau phase, where the calcium inward movement starts to take place, and thereby a outward movement of potassium gets balanced. That is the reason why we get a plateau phase. It has a long duration and called as the absolute refractory period, where in no stimulus of any strength can excite the cardiac muscle. It corresponds to the ST segment of ECG. After this, the phase 3 will get initiated, and the phase 3 repolarization, the potassium channels remains open and allows more potassium to leave the cell, and the potassium builds up outside the cell, causing this repolarization, and it is a rapid phase. This potassium channel finally, when the membrane potential reaches near baseline or to the resting membrane potential, it gets closed, and thereby it leads to the phase 4. Phase 4 is the resting phase or slow depolarization. In this stage, the potassium ions are back into the cells and sodium and calcium ions outside the cell unless next stimulation occurs. It is done by the sodium potassium pump and called as the sodium potassium AT phase. Another pump is also present to remove the calcium. It's called the sodium and 3 sodium and 1 calcium pump, which whereby takes the particular cell to the resting membrane potential, and the entire process is called as repolarization. After phase 4, again the slow depolarization starts unless the particular charge reaches to minus 70. The cycle repeats and the myocardium action potential takes place. So to conclude, resting membrane potential of myocardium is minus 90 millivolt. Phase 0 results due to opening of fast sodium channels resulting in rapid depolarization. Phase 1, initial early rapid repolarization results due to closure of fast sodium channels and potassium ions leaving the cell. Phase 2 is called as the plateau phase. It is a balance between inward movement of calcium and outward movement of potassium. Phase 3 is the repolarization. Potassium channel remains open. Phase 4, resting phase or slow depolarization. It's also called as resting membrane potential, whereby the sodium leaves the cell and the potassium regains its position in the cell and bringing back the cell to the resting phase potential. Thank you.